Live from New York. It's Saturday night. Oh, wait, we're not in New York. We're in Mount Shasta, in the state of Jefferson.
I wish.
And it's Monday night. Monday night in Mount Shasta. Okay. So, welcome everybody. In our beautiful spring weather, we have lovely spring rain today. We didn't get enough snow in the winter, so the rain is most welcome. And so here we are, Monday night. Toltec discussions with Golden Eagle. So we'll talk about a little bit of Toltec stuff today. We might get around to that. First things first. It is 7 p.m., which means it's time for our meditation for human consciousness. We do this at 7 a.m., 7 p.m. every day. So for those of you who've seen a few, you know the drill. If you haven't, it's very simple. Sit comfortably, legs not crossed, feet on the floor or sitting in lotus position, and breathe deeply. Keep your hands about so far apart. Activate your energy. And fill this space with your energy. Create an energy ball. And in your mind's eye, see this energy ball morph to becoming a representation of our planet Earth. See the blues, the greens, the browns and the whites rotating gently under you. And then look closely at the limb, the edge, from your point of view. And see the pink field, the glowing, bright pink field of human collective consciousness, into which we are going to send our messages. God lives. Love is the answer. We are all one. God lives. Love is the answer. We are all one. God lives. Love is the answer. We are all one. I'm asking everyone in the world to do this every day at the same time. The times chosen are 7 a.m. and 7 p.m. Pacific time. And later we may be adding another time halfway in between those. And the more people we get doing these at the same time, we will change the collective consciousness into these three core key concepts to being the new paradigm. So, thank you. If you turned in for that, please stay for the rest of our discussion this evening. Do we have anyone online yet?
Yeah, but I can't get into the chat log for the Facebook yet.
Don't worry about Facebook then. We'll just go with chat log on YouTube.
So, William Rolling is with us.
William Rolling. I have to ask him my weekly question. William, did you ever get on Facebook and see the message I put there for you? We'll wait for him to type something. Who else is online?
Mohadib,
Wadib.
Aaron Eaton,
Mr. Eaton, welcome.
Heidi Porter says Bueno tardes.
Buenos tardes, señora. Muy bien.
Oh, she says Buenos. And then there's Dennis Brown,
Dennis Brown.
Patty C,
Patty C. I know her.
Marcel
Marcel.
is on board. Little Eagle,
Little Eagle.
93, George G. Hay, and William says not yet, laughing out loud.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I'll have more to say about that later, perhaps. Hey, did you ever hear that story about how you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink? That's a good one. I should tell that sometime. Yeah. Well, are we all having fun yet? I want to commend one of my teachers, E.J. Gold, for his overall approach to the current COVID situation. He's using this once again to encourage us to do our spiritual work. You know, we have, most of us, more time on our hands at home than we used to. EJ's been using world events as explanation for why you should do your spiritual work for a long time now. I remember him leading up to the Trump election 4 years ago, that he was like, you got to use this to do your work. And once Trump was in office, you got to use this to do your work. And he's been saying the same thing, you know, that the impetus, the external impetus, the external reasons why you should do your work will change over time. But the bottom line is, the take-home message is do your work. Good, everybody got it? So we can go home now? Oh wait, we are home. Do your work. That is the answer. That's another answer. Love is one answer, and do your work is the other answer. Right now, the world is doing a really good job of adapting to electronic technologies as a way of communicating. I've been using Zoom for a couple of years for my occasional webinar or class that I wanted to teach, or a consultation, because when I'm one-on-one with a corporate client or a personal client, then I can pull up something on my computer and show them, right? So I've been using it for a while. Certainly didn't have all the large group things mastered the way we all do now. So my next question for you all is, what happens when the internet goes down? Or if the internet goes down? What happens when your power is out for 2 weeks because PG&E, after 150 years, has forgotten how to keep their equipment safe if the wind blows or it rains? Not that that would ever happen. Not that they'd ever need to use that cover story to cover up whatever really happened in those fires for the last 3 years. But what happens when we go and either we don't have power, or we don't have internet, or both, or we don't have Southern California anymore to talk to? Not that that would ever happen. you can't log in and you can't see Bonnie and I, our teacher, Coyote the Blind anymore because he can't do broadcasts anymore and he's 670 miles away. Can't see EJ, who's, almost 300 miles away. You can't see me because, some of you are in Australia. Okay, so then what? And this is not just an idle conversation. This conversation is the real deal. What are you going to do, especially for an impetus for your work? Assume that for whatever reason or reasons, the comet hits again. Not that that would ever hit and wipe out continents on this planet. But assume something happens. And you don't get to see my ugly face screaming at you for not doing your work. What's your impetus? What is the reason other than my sharp-toed boot or the memory of it that will keep you going? Oh, and please chime in on the chat if you have any answers to that question.
Aaron Eaton states that lower life forms will be lost without their technology gods. And Mohadib says, read books, meditate, continue to work on your own.
I like Aaron's answer because, that is exactly what has happened in our culture by design. I like Muad'Dib's answer because she's on the right track. You have to do your own work. Come on up here, St. Lamina. You want to get on TV? Oh, look, she's on TV. At least I can see she's on Facebook. Yeah, Facebook TV. Yeah. We have to do our own work. You yourself, whoever you are watching this, you have to develop the fire and the drive inside you that's going to keep you going. You have to desire and seek your own attainment, whatever attainment is. You have to seek that the way a person crawling through the desert dying of thirst craves water. The way a starving wild animal who finally gets a bone will crave the bits of flesh and the marrow in that bone and will fight to the death to defend it if something else tries to take that bone from it. That is the intensity, at least a glimpse of the intensity and the fire you need to have inside you. And I would tell you, don't wait for the internet to go down. You need that right now.
This is a wake-up call.
Right. Like EJ says, use this as a wake-up call. Because you should be able to put two and two together and see the writing on the wall and read the map and say, yeah, it could happen. It could happen. Between the two of us, we've lived through a number of disasters in the last half century plus. You've been through earthquakes. I've been through earthquakes. Yours was more severe, the effect on you.
You had a volcano.
I had a volcano. I'm an official Mount St. Helens survivor. I had Mount St. Helens volcanic ash dumped on me. I survived tornadoes and hurricanes when I lived in Florida. We all watched from a distance the disaster that was Hurricane Katrina. And that had ripple effects all the way across the country, including up here to Mount Shasta. One of those hurricanes, we had survivors come up here. And it doesn't necessarily have to be a disaster of biblical proportions to warrant being prepared for what are you going to do to feed yourself, clothe yourself, and sleep without getting rained on if a major disaster happens. That's one level of preparedness. But let's suppose that something happens and you can't get on the internet and look up things up on YouTube to learn how to light a fire or cook food or open a can. When you're discussing a subtle point, very subtle different point of philosophical explanation, you can't get on the internet then to look up the definitions. What exactly did Aristotle say about this? I don't know. But what did Hegel say about it? Or maybe there's scraps of internet surviving.
Well, all of that stuff's getting copywritten now. Even the ancient stuff, the sources that make it available are moving us into a world where we're going to have to pay for that information.
Yeah, so you have to pay for that. Maybe all you get on the internet is you get that Monty Python soccer game with the philosophers, right? And then that doesn't going to help you a whole lot. To either light a fire or to answer your philosophical discussions. So, yeah, you have to be doing your work right now with the drive and the fire as if your very existence depends on it. And hopefully, after listening to me for a few years now, you've kind of got the point that your very existence depends on it. Your eternal existence, your eternal essence, what lifetime are you going to be born into next? Are you going to fulfill your true purpose, not just for this one incarnation, but for eternity? What's your plan for eternity? This needs to be your all-consuming thought. Moment by moment, day by day. You get up in the morning, okay, I got to get ready for eternity. What's next? I'm so blessed I have a partner who thinks like that, who thinks the way I do on this. There's hardly, is it, go show your face on this one, but is it or is it not true that there's hardly a day go by that we don't have some aspect of that conversation?
Yeah, I think that it's more of fact at this point where ordinary reality is just an annoyance that we have to deal with, like baby kittens, not exactly was on
unexpected
the
baby
list
kittens.
of things to be working on this week. But yeah, and the thing I guess that we can attest to is that when you do the work in a specific way and your will is in alignment with the greater will, that things happen to make it available for you to do your work. So in other words, right now we think we have to be consumed with holding a job and renting an apartment and having a certain kind of car and clothes and vacations and things because that's what we're supposed to have. But it's interesting how that's one reality, and you just simply step out of that, and when you're doing that in alignment with the greater will, you're provided for, things happen. So when you get to that point where you can really see that, then you'll kind of know where you're at in your thought process.
Yeah, you should have seen my lovely bride's face. The morning, I usually get up early, and I went out to check on the cats, and the wild cat that moved onto our porch last fall came along with two kittens, and the kittens are nearly grown. And I went out, and the cat that we were certain was male had three kittens nursing off it in our laundry room. Just kind of clocked that, and I went, okay. I went in. Oh, Bonnie. We have a situation in the laundry room. Helios has three kittens. A look on her face with the big eyes. And,
Mina, keep down.
yeah, she's okay.
She's washing. It's a distraction on the camera.
All right, Mina, you're gone. You're fired. The stage director said, you're fired. So, yeah, life throws you a few things like that we have to adapt to. But then it's like, okay, well, let's get these kittens secure, and then let's get on with, eternity. What do we need next? What's next? So we've got our list. We're working it. It's important to keep that long-term, eternal perspective in mind when you're making these day-to-day decisions. Your day-to-day decisions are going to revolve around what do I need to do for my true purpose in this incarnation, and what do I need to be doing to setting myself up for eternity. Whether that's another incarnation or who knows what else you won't be given a choice of. But it really depends everything on how much and how well and how diligent you do it now. In addition to that, as if that weren't enough, I'm basically telling you to define your existence for all of eternity and give three examples. There's the perspective and the point of view about not just you, but all of humanity. Humanity is on a journey, right? The human race. You've probably heard me talk about this as the humanity organism, where each of us as individuals are cells in the larger organism, or being of this humanity organism. And so, kind of the theme I'm talking about going forward, should I just flat out tell them that we're moving into a new direction now? Or did they figure that out, do you think?
Well, if they read your thinger.
Yeah. So I'm starting to talk about human potential. Oh, and then I forgot. After the meditation, I was supposed to do announcements. So let me finish this thought. Then we'll see if there's anybody else new online, and then we'll continue our thought. So, life for each individual and life for humanity is about potential. Potential you can think of as possibilities. It's possibilities for something that hasn't happened yet, but might. At a very macroscopic level, the image I used for tonight's discussion is some equations for potential energy from physics. Because I'm a physics geek at heart. The next batch of equations are the ones I chose not to use because I didn't want to blow everybody's minds the first night on this new topic, are the quantum mechanical equations for the potential of an electron passing through a double slit. Quantum mechanical waveform potentials. The Schrödinger wave equations, for those who know of such things. What could happen given everything we know now? Humanity could achieve the new golden age. Whole societies enlightened, fixing all our problems, eliminating disease, everybody attaining enlightenment, whatever that is, and operating in a new grand glorious fashion to move humanity further on our path of potential and evolution. That's a possibility. Another possibility is we keep electing idiots as politicians, and they slowly or quickly drive us into the ground, and hopefully they won't blow up continents this time. But that is a trend in human history. It's happened more than once. So, which potential do we like? So that's kind of the theme, is what's possible and what do we have to do to move humanity in the direction of not blowing up continents. Let's say we want the new golden age. What do we got to do? And my message to you is take notes and learn this, because the day may come. It's not guaranteed. The day may not come. I hope it doesn't. But if the day comes where there's no more internet and you can't get on YouTube and watch Golden Eagle anymore, or EJ, or Coyote, or, and this would be a good thing, you can't watch the politicians anymore, even if you have that fire inside, you need to know what to do with it. So here's the roadmap. So, while we have the internet, we want to tell you a few things about what's coming up to assist you in this process. So we have been discussing and whatnot, and we have a plan.
Why don't you give the overview and I'll try to start.
Fill in the, okay. So the overview is, we're this year, over the course of the summer and into possibly the fall, we're going to be pulling together a lot of information that we've taught over the last 10 years, and it's going to be refined and honed down into a very specific and concise set of courses on the use of subtle energies for consciousness and for healing.
Transformation.
And your transformation. So this ties in directly with this new series where I'm giving you the roadmap and we're giving you the tools. And then no matter what happens in the world, you have what you need. So, the first class, how you want me to go over an overview of the first two?
No, I will talk about details, but why don't you talk a little bit in general about what the roadmap of what we're going to
Okay,
do.
so the flow of classes through the summer is, we know there's a lot of Akado holders out there. We know there's a lot of other users of different forms of subtle energy. It could be Chi or Prana or Reiki or Hands of Light or Yori or whatever. And so this is something that the world of science, the world of academia, just puts over into a category called, that I refer to them referring to it as woo woo. And you're back. Are you going to behave? I didn't scratch her enough last time. So in this woo woo world, valid healing techniques, for example, are shunned by the mainstream medical world because it doesn't involve pharmacology, therefore it can't exist. There's a lot of reasons for that. So we're pulling all this together, the best techniques, the best scientific explanations, the best practical instruction for how to use this we're going to start at a beginning level, then an intermediate level, and then a high level, advanced level stuff. You want to heal somebody on the other side of the planet. That will be covered later in the summer in the advanced classes. I and many other people in the world have done this routinely. So, yes, you can heal people on the other side of the planet if you know they're there and you know how to tap in. So we're going to teach that. First, however, we're going to go through some introductory material that are on the basics of energy and some of its scientific explanations. Then we're going to flow into some more practical work of one practitioner, one client. Then we're going to go into some group work. Then we're going to get into some more advanced things. One of the things that we're going to talk about is the human structural integrity field method of kinesiological physiotherapy. Now quick, say that 4 times real fast. There's going to be there's 1 or 2 classes that will come up that will be limited based on whether or not you have the Akadwa. Most of these classes are open to people of any flavor of energy. Why don't you go into some detail?
No, what I was going to say, I'd like you to go back to explain what you just said, because nobody knows what that means, other than possibly the word kinesiology.
Okay, I'll do that. In my healing career, dating back to last century, I was very fortunate to be first a patient and then a colleague with a chiropractor friend of mine who taught me the beginnings of how to use the human body's energy field both diagnostically and for treatment purposes. He was untrained in Asian medicine, he was untrained in subtle energies, but he was doing it. And I took what he taught and I've added to it based on my knowledge of Qi and the meridians and chakras and shamanic skills, and I've morphed that into how to work directly with the human structural integrity field. So this is yes, we have chakras, yes, we have meridians, yes, we have acupoints, but there is a larger system of logic that accompanies our energy fields. And so the whole term is we're using that structural integrity field both diagnostically and for treatment purposes. And it will help, it can treat bones, muscles, organs, energy structures, internal organs. I've used it to determine that people did or did not have certain organs. They've been surgically removed or surgically damaged or damaged in accidents. And, I'm working on somebody I just met and say, oh, when did you have your gallbladder out? How did you know? Well, your body just told me, right? So there's 2 or 3 levels of this class. I've never taught more than level 1.
To advanced people that have a background in
Right.
healing and advanced healing and acupuncture and those kind of things. So you're making this available to anyone who feels like they can
Right.
do the work.
So this is available to any and all flavors of healers. Everybody can use this. Like the Akadwa enhances your clinical judgment, this batch of knowledge enhances your ability to do something about what your clinical intuition is telling you. And it doesn't matter if you're a chiropractor or a brain surgeon or a massage therapist or a Reiki practitioner or anything. This material will make you better at what you're doing. So we have this whole series of classes, 1 or maybe 2 major classes a month, and in between we're going to be having a series of practice sessions. So I'm going to turn this over to the lovely Aurea Luce, aka Bonnie. and hope I don't break my cup, and let her talk.
So, I was going to read some of the titles and some of the series that will be going on, and they will advance through the summer. But I wanted to also say that because, well, there's several reasons we're doing this, and one is because of the lockdown situation. Many people are at home and have the opportunity to learn right now. At the same time, some of you are still working, and so we're avoiding weekdays. However, right now we are going to attempt to schedule these on the major classes on a Saturday, and the practice sessions and shorter lectures on a Sunday afternoon. So if any of you are interested in this and those days of the week absolutely do not work, we could potentially do like a Wednesday evening, especially for the practice sessions. Or we can add more practice sessions too. So basically the first course will be on Sunday the 24th, and it's just a 1-hour class. And this is material that some of the base material has been covered in our Akadua Level 1 class. We're making this available to the public. It is an introduction to energy healing and the physics of energy medicine. And so Dr. Cage has put in a lot of work over the last 12 years, or 10 years, basically understand and defining the energy structures of subtle energies so that we can better understand what it is we're doing from a scientific perspective, and it is no longer woo-woo. As most of you know, we carry the lineage of the Akadua energy, and that is always available anytime. You can call and make a personal appointment. You can receive the Akadua via distance. You can drive up to Mount Shasta and receive the Akadua transmission. But many people, many of our colleagues may already hold the Akadua, but have never taken one of our courses, which is simply to help you learn how to use subtle energies. So it's not necessarily related to the Akadua itself, and that's why most of any energy practitioners will benefit from this material. So we're going to be on the Saturday the 30th of May. There will be an Akadua Level 1 course, excuse me, via distance. If you have not received a transmission of the energy, you'll tune in and receive that via distance, and Golden Eagle will work with each one individually to make sure that you can feel it and turn it on and work with it. And then there will be a 3-hour course, Level 1 course that we have offered in the past, that we're going to be recording and putting online in the future so that it can be watched by those who would like to do so. So if you've already got the Akadua, you're welcome to come to those courses and just pay for the course itself rather than the transmission. And just know, because of the situation in the world, that we do make payment arrangements. You can always request a scholarship or make some kind of token donation, and we'd be happy to work with you. So that's what's coming up right away. The rest of this month, that's just 2 weeks away for that first, or less than 2 weeks away for the first class. The Introduction to Energy Healing and the Physics of Energy Medicine, which is a 1-hour class on the 24th, Sunday, and the Akadua Energy Level 1 class on Saturday the 30th. So I'm going to really quickly go through the rest of the summer with some of the things that are coming up. In June, there will be an introduction to consciousness training, using some practical techniques to expand your consciousness and be able to accelerate your spiritual growth. Every other week on a Sunday afternoon, we're going to have what's called an open training session, which basically for energy training. It will build. There will be more advanced exercises, but anybody can drop in anytime to one of those sessions and get reacquainted with exercises, whether you hold Reiki or Yori, or you work with Chi or Prana, or you're just getting the Akadua and just getting started with energy medicine. These techniques will help build your abilities. There will also be the Akadua level 2 course, which has to be taken 28 days after, or it doesn't, well, it has to, at the least, it needs to be 28 days after the level 1, so that would be set up accordingly. In July, we're looking at some advanced energy healing classes, or a class. There's no prerequisite for this. Again, if any healers at any level want to come to that class, it will be open for that. There will be more training sessions, which are open to anyone as well. And then there will be the Akadua level 3 course, or and attunement. And then in August, we're looking at what's missing off of here is there's going to be a basic class on kinesiology. So if you don't know what that is, that's basically muscle testing, or using a pendulum, or anything that you need to do to guarantee that you're getting a clear signal, yes or no answer type of thing. And so there's a lot of different ways of doing that, but the bottom line is to do the more advanced energy work, you have to have a trust in yourself, in your energy fields, in the energy fields of your client, and your ability to get clear feedback as to what your signals are. And so that's what the kinesiology class will be about. And then the structural integrity, human structural integrity method will be probably over a few different days, because it's a lot of intense material, and if possible, it would be great to have some live hands-on work if anybody could make it up to Mount Shasta in August.
We'll work out the details, and I'll say right now that we need to, you can come back to the camera on me now.
Well, the only other thing I was going to say is that all of this is leading up potentially to an Akadua level 4 intensive, which is a 1-week lockdown intensive. So that is obviously pending the state of affairs in the world and how everything's going. But that would be preparing any individual who would like to work through the Akadua levels in order to take that class. It is only open to Akadua students.
Yes. So, the only classes that have assigned dates, exact assigned dates, are the two we've told you, the 24th and the 30th. So, stay tuned.
And let us know if you're interested, because it's on an as-needed basis.
Right. Some of these are definitely on an as-needed basis. About 3 months ago, I put out a ping, I would call it, like a sonar ping, to see if anything came back about the potential for the level 4 class in September. For a variety of reasons, there's a very specific and very narrow window of opportunity in September. And it might happen then, it might not. It's one of those potential things I'm talking about. And I would need a certain critical mass of people who want to go through that. But even though we don't know that that's going to happen yet, and we don't know the dates of these others, we're moving forward in a particular direction, building you the tools that you're going to need for your consciousness, your transformation, and for healing for the future. So humanity, in this long-term perspective, humanity has a purpose. We're on a journey, a process. And this process is basically to take the human race as we know it and evolve it to become a race of powerful beings that have the full capabilities of God here on this physical world. This physical world is a training ground. The Toltecs call this the forging of gods. Throughout history, there have been a few different religions from time to time, a few different other spiritual systems who make reference to some or all of this concept. They have been few and far between. Most spiritual systems, most religions, and most of modern science doesn't seem to have a clue. Now I say that not as an absolute truth, that's why I use the word seem. It seems like they don't have a clue, because if they had a clue, I think most of them would be saying and doing a whole different approach to their existence. Some of them, I'm open to this possibility too, may actually have a clue and don't want you to achieve that capability. And so they're going to work to distract you from it. They're going to work to keep you in a state of existence where attaining those abilities and that knowledge and understanding is not possible. What we see going on in the world today is just one example of many of how that might happen. If you want to read the full playbook, I've said this before, I'll say it again, go read George Orwell's novel 1984. When you have a culture that is in perpetual war, and the society is maintained in a state of fear and division of us against them, we are not able to maintain the brainwave frequencies necessary to attain what can only be described as our godhood. There are forces and agencies, such as some organized religions, that are working very hard to keep you from that. They're not the only ones. But that's the intent of humanity. To create beings with the full capabilities of God in the physical world, the plane of Malkuth. If you watched my discussions last year on the Tree of Life, there are things that can be done here that can't be done in those higher planes. And some of them involve evolving our essential selves. And some of it involves getting more people trained to a certain level who can evolve the universe. That is the intent of humanity. So, knowing that that's the cauldron that we're in, that is the chosen calling you have selected for yourself, what's next? One of the pieces of background information that you need to grok. I know Aaron Eaton knows the word grok. It comes from the science fiction novel by Ray Bradbury called Stranger in a Strange Land. to grok something means to, you can think of it as to totally understand something all the way down to the very core of every cell. You know it, you feel it. It's not just, oh yeah, I understand. 2 plus 2 is 4. No, there's a deeper meaning to understanding. And so we who are sci-fi geeks like to use the word grok. You need to grok the knowledge of and understanding of the true, full structure of the universe and your own nature as a unified, holistic human organism existing on multiple planes simultaneously. I'm going to take this off. It's annoying me. So, that subject includes things like all the different planes of reality, the physical, etheric, astral, and so on. Your higher bodies of light. And this has to become practical, not just theoretical. So you have to train your bodies of light. You have to connect with them. You have to use them. It's just like your muscles. If you don't use them, they don't do you a whole heck of a lot of good. They're just extra flesh carrying around that somebody else will eat at the right time. So, you need to know your playing field, in other words. You need to know what the universe is like. The roadmap that we spent a lot of time last year talking about concerning the Kabbalistic tree of life, the Nordic tree of life. Pick your favorite tree of life and learn it. So that's one step. The next piece of information I'm going to tell you that you need to grasp is the fact that you are not your body. Your body is this human biological machine you're driving around right now. You are not the human primate. Wrong page. I've got notes. I actually put a lot of prep into this, so I have notes. You are going to need to learn how to act, respond, and think and view the world and the whole universe from the perspective of your eternal essential self. Not the human primate, not the biological machine. But you are something else. This body is something we put on very much like these clothes, and when I get done with it, I take the shirt off and toss it aside. And when we get done with this body, we'll take it off and toss it aside, because part of the purpose of human evolution is generation by generation, we upgrade. Human beings in 100 or 1,000 years will be far more advanced.
It's like those snails, sea snails that get bigger and bigger things to live in.
Right. So there's a series of very shamanic science fiction novels called the Dune series, which you've heard me talk about. And one of the later ones, one of the technologies they have is when you die, they keep your body and they can keep cloning it. And so one of the characters from the very first Dune movies is named Duncan Idaho. They keep cloning him, so he keeps coming back. And in his day, he was literally the best fighter, swordsman, knife wielder, ninja that was in existence. Well, he comes back 1,000 years later when they've cloned him again, and he's got his memories from when he died the first time. A lot of gaps in the theory, and he gets mad at somebody. He tries to take him out, and it's this wizened old man who just beats the crap out of him. And the guy just laughs at him. He says, "You're just an older model." It's sort of like you keep cloning your Model T because you fell in love with the Model T. And now there's Ford Mustangs and Lamborghinis and Indy 500 race cars and things like that. And your Model T just doesn't cut it anymore. So the human biological machines in 1,000 years are going to be very different. And it doesn't have to take that long. That we'll talk about that later. There's an awful lot of evolution of your existing machine that can be done in this lifetime, but there's a secret process to doing that. And because it's this really super secret process, most people don't do it. I can tell you what the name of the super secret process is, though, and then you'll know why people don't do it. You should know this one.
The secret process?
Yeah, the name of it. Why people won't do it.
The work?
It's work! Ding, 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 ding. A 5 dingy dingy answer.
Woohoo!
It's work. It takes a lot of work. And because it looks like work, and it only looks like work because it is work, people just, next incarnation, I'll get around to work. Well, next incarnation could be a really long time away.
Can we call it something other than work? How about like training?
No. If people are afraid of the word work, we don't want them. I don't want them in my school. If work scares you, go back and reconsider why you came to this planet, because you were told ahead of time that there was a lot of work required.
I'm still pissed off about that.
And yet, here we are again.
Do you want more tea?
No, I'm good. So, the next thing, and these aren't necessarily the only order these could be listed, but they're the order I'm listing them in as I deliver these core messages that I really hope you get, because who knows what could happen in the future. You may not get another chance to get these messages. The next thing you need to understand is a very core fundamental principle of the universe, is that everything in the universe is energy, frequency, and vibration. Everything vibrates. Everything moves. You've heard me allude to the higher aspects of ourselves, our higher bodies, the higher planes. That was part of that first thing I told you you needed to have a good understanding of. To connect with those higher aspects of yourself, the only way we can do that is through energy, frequency, and vibration. If you want to tune in to your spirit guides, it's energy, frequency, and vibration. If you want to tune into your personal higher self, or your personal holy guardian angel, or God, or Christ or Buddha. It's energy, frequency, and vibration. Are you seeing the pattern here? Good. So how do you use energy, frequency, and vibration to connect to the higher planes? Think of musical instruments. If it's a string musical instrument like a violin, you have to have new strings. They have to be tuned carefully. You have to have a bow with the right amount of the right kind of horsehair, the right kind of rosin on it. The instrument has to be shaped so that the resonating chamber is perfect. The strings can't be rusty and corroded. You can't have dust and mice nesting inside. It has to be pristine and clean and maintained properly. The wood needs to be oiled. Then you can use it to play a symphony. Well, your instrument is your biological machine. Does everyone know what a Stradivarius is? I know you know. Anybody online not know what a Stradivarius is? Let's put it that way. Yes or no? Just if there's first no, I'll explain it.
Not seeing any no's.
No no's. Okay, so you all know that a Stradivarius is considered the finest violins ever made. A single Stradivarius is probably well over $1 million. There's only a limited number because the guy who made them, named Stradivarius, who's the best violin maker ever, he's no longer alive. There are no more Stradivariuses coming off his assembly line or out of his workshop. The quality of the wood had to be just so. I read a whole treatise once, and it was just, and the sound when you played that violin was incredible. Now, at the other end of the scale, you can go down to a secondhand store, and for about $20, you can buy a cheap violin that's pressed out of garbage, and it sounds like it. Do you want your human biological machine to behave and vibrate like it's cheap pressed garbage? Or do you want it to vibrate and behave like a Stradivarius? Well, if you have that drive within you, that fire I was talking about at the beginning, I hope your answer is you're trying to make your machine work as much like the Stradivarius as you can. That will facilitate your ability to connect with all these other things I've mentioned, like your own higher self, your own essential self, your holy guardian angel, all your bodies of light, interconnected through the chakra system. And it's not just for energy, it's for information. There's two-way information flow. And the purpose of that is for one thing. For you to gain access to the content of your true will, your true purpose, your divine destiny. The one thing you agreed to do on this earth orb. this time around. So you need your biological machine to vibrate optimally. There is another name for the optimal vibration of your human biological machine. You don't get to answer this one. I know it's not that word you just started to say. It's a different word. So one word answer. Let's give our online audience a chance to play. What is the name for that optimal state of frequency and vibration?
I don't
No.
know what you're going for.
I know what I'm going for.
I know you know what you're going for.
Let's see if anybody has an answer. Is there anybody still out there?
Is anybody out there?
We need that reverb going on. We need EJ's set up where we can hit the reverb button.
William has an answer.
Okay, what's William's answer?
Love.
No. That's a good guess. That's a half a ding answer just because I like the way you think. And given the meditations we've been doing, I can see why you would say that. Anybody else? Oh, come on. Oh. I am so disappointed.
Aaron says singularity.
I'm not surprised Aaron said that. That's not the answer I'm looking for. It's way simpler, people.
Mohadib asked what the question was. She was cooking for Serenity.
Okay, the question is, for you, did she get the fact that we're talking about...
Just ask the question.
Okay, I have to set it up because if you don't know the backstory, you don't know the question. We're talking about, Muad'Dib, the core concept of the universe, that everything vibrates, everything moves. I compared our human biological machines to fine musical instruments. I compared it to a Stradivarius violin or the cheap plastic toy you buy down at the dime store. And in order to maintain our biological machine in a condition of optimal frequency and vibration to facilitate the interdimensional communications, there is a name for that optimal condition of vibration and frequency. So what is the name of that condition? Nobody's got it.
No. Refinement.
Now, what I'm looking for is health. When we have our biological machine and all its faculties optimally vibrating in frequency, we call that health. In my book called Heal Your Life, Heal the World are the instructions for maintaining or obtaining and maintaining and operating your human biological machine in an optimal state of health. One of the early naturopathic medicine pioneers was a man named Henry Lindlar. And he defined health as the normal and harmonious vibration of the human organism on its physical, mental, and moral planes of being. That quote is in the book. We require health on the physical level, the emotional level, the mental level, the spiritual level, and the energetic level for optimal health. maintaining your health isn't just an annoyance that you start to think about the 2 or 3 months leading up to your annual physical exam you go in for once every 5 or 10 years. See if anybody gets that joke. If you have that driving, burning passion to attain your true will, health should be one of your prerequisites. This is why, on multiple levels, what's going on in the world right now is having very detrimental effects on our health. And it isn't just about whether or not you catch a virus and whether or not you're in that 0.2% who the virus kills. Fear is a very negative emotion. And there's a lot of it going around right now, being propagated by the group I call the fear purveyors. Media, politicians, so forth. And that's why our meditation is trying to spread love. Love is the answer. The immune system is what has defended the human organism from infectious disease in every single case where someone had an infectious disease and did die. Throughout recorded history, from the first creation of life on this planet, medicine might assist or help. Hygiene, washing your hands, makes it easier for your immune system to work. Basically, anything the doctors do, anything the healer does, is to make it possible for your immune system to work. Every person who's ever healed or recovered from an infectious illness recovered because of your immune system. The French philosopher Voltaire once said, "The doctor's job is to amuse the patient while nature does the healing." And there is a lot of truth in that. So, you're driving around in your fancy new human biological machine vehicle, and it's really important for you to keep it healthy. I've talked about fear and love. In those Dune novels, they have what's called the Litany Against Fear. I've talked about it before. You can go look it up. I actually quoted it 2 or 3 days ago on one of the evening meditations. I think it was an evening meditation. So you can go back and watch that. You can read the Dune novels. You can just look up in your search engine, while you've still got access to search engines, Litany Against Fear. And it's very real. Frank Herbert was a genius when he wrote that series of novels. I guess the later ones have been taken over by his son now. But the Litany Against Fear works. I memorized it when I was in, when did I read the first Dune novels? 5th or 6th grade is when I was reading Dune. Half my classmates were still reading Dr. Seuss. I was such a geek. I'm so glad I'm better now. I'm a better geek now.
You still have to laugh at your jokes.
Well, one of my requirements is you still have to laugh at my bad jokes if you want to pass the class. Okay. So you've got that background. I've alluded to this a little bit before, but you have your divine destiny, right? Your true will. That's the purpose you're here for. If you're like most of us, you're giving it one piece at a time. You know you're doing really good and you're really on track when they trust you with 2 pieces at a time. Well, here's this step, and then here's the next step. Go do that. And you're like, oh, I just got moved up. I get 2 pieces of the puzzle at once. What's important to know on this eternal perspective that lasts longer than I can stretch my arms out here. The humanity organism as a whole also has its true will. A purpose for why we're here. I kind of alluded to that back at the beginning. So, you're born into an incarnation, you acclimatize to your culture, you learn to make different sounds, and different sounds will either get you food or get you smacked. You know, you're trying to learn, so we say mama, daddy, food. You know, if the first words out of your mouth is something like, Mom, stop being mean to me, you know, if that was the random sounds that came out, she'd probably backhand you, right? For being mean to your mother when you're still an infant. But we learned that. We acclimatize into a culture. And that's both good and bad in terms of your long-term growth and development. It's bad in the sense that most cultures on Earth right now have forgotten some of these larger truths of the universe, and they don't help you remember why you're here. Could you imagine being born into a culture? Just think about this. Being born into a culture where from the moment you're conceived, your parents are talking to you as if you're already an intelligent adult, and they are talking to you about remembering why you're coming here.
I posted a link to your book, by the way.
Oh, good. Thank you. Children are born. They naturally do things like see auras and communicate beyond the veil. And they try to talk to their family about this and get laughed at and ridiculed because, oh, that's just an imaginary friend. Oh, you can't possibly be seeing glowing lights around a rock because it's just a rock. Or a tree or an animal. But imagine a culture where everyone can do that, and so they raise their children to think of that as normal and natural. Nobody has to spend decades learning and struggling to master the spiritual skills to get back in touch with their true will, because they never forgot the skills. They never forgot their true will. They don't have to relearn anything. It's just there. And now imagine 3 consecutive generations of children being raised that way. And imagine what the world could be like.
I think we forget how quickly things can change, just like this pandemic, just
Right.
like the Berlin Wall.
Yeah, that is such a classic example. If anybody of you younger ones don't know about the Berlin Wall, go read about it. Go read about the Cold War. That's where you need to start. End of World War II resulted in a period of high tension and animosity between the West and the Soviet bloc, right? So the United States, all its allies, the Soviet Union and its allies, who what really means is the countries they conquered and made into slave states. And Cuban Missile Crisis was part of that. We were literally that close to nuclear war to wipe out the world. And it all came down. It all ended. The Berlin Wall. Go read about it. And it came down so fast. You know, literally 1 week we were at the height of the Cold War. And a week later the Berlin Wall came down and the Soviet bloc crumbled and all the Soviet republics that had been under the thumb and under the boot of Russia were suddenly free. Free and independent countries again. Within a week. So this can all change quickly. And the number one way those kind of changes happen quickly is with the human collective consciousness. All of a sudden, you got 1 million people trying to tune into a different signal because they're tired of what they're seeing, and they hit that same new radio channel. Oh, you know, some of you don't ever have to deal with turning a dial, which is controlling a rheostat, changing your electric circuit, and that tunes in on your radio. In your car radio, when you hit the seek button, it goes to the next channel automatically. Used to be, it didn't. You had to turn a knob. So, when you get enough people turning the knob and tuning in to the new channel that says, God lives, love is the answer, we are all one, they go, oh, I like the sound of this. And everybody's frequency shifts at once. Oh, we don't, sorry, we don't do that Berlin Wall thing anymore. Why, I'm sorry, we don't do that COVID-19 thing anymore because, you know, it's not even as bad as a cold virus. Which is true, statistically. So, I think I'm going to stop there. I have more written, but I think I'm going to include that in next week's discussion of your checklist. Checklist for independent ascension. Or attainment. I like the word attainment better. Anybody have questions?
Just so you know, Serenity was on and said hi.
Oh, hi, Serenity. Nobody told me that earlier.
And then on Facebook, I don't know if she's still on there, but Melody and the boys were on there.
Oh, okay.
Brennan. And
hello, Melody boys and Brennan.
I need you to look at the vertical hold on this because I can't see where to type in a question on there. So I'm just kind of going back up to see if there was any questions. I don't see any real questions.
Okay. So where we're going with this potential thing is you have a potential, humanity has a potential, and I'm going through the checklist of the kind of things you need to be doing and internalizing and building that internal fire that drives you forward in the event that something happens to prevent your access to outside information in the future. So that's where we're going. We'll continue next week. Oh, wait. Something just flashed up here. Oh, Luke in Australia. Hey, Luke. Glad you tuned in. I hope you saw the whole thing. We're almost wrapping up.
William says, will the open energy training be available via Zoom?
Oh, we didn't say that, but all of these are going to be available on Zoom. That's going to be our method. A few may be simultaneously, some of them may be simultaneously broadcast on YouTube.
The open ones, I think, could be, it's the paid classes. that
Right.
will
The
only
paid
be
classes will only be on Zoom, but they'll all be on Zoom. I think that was a good question. Thank you. That's a ding, ding, ding question.
All right, well, go. Little Eagle asks, I emailed my questions earlier today. There were 6 questions.
Yes, you did. It was nice to see you engage with my equations. You kind of took it in a direction that wasn't intended, but I think you're starting to see the potential in your questions. So, in terms of describing you and your being as, how does that fit into the equation? I'm going to have you answer those questions based on our conversation thus far. They were good questions, but human beings are far more complex than any of those equations. But that's a step in the right direction. You're on a good track. Any other questions?
Are the handbooks in the mail? They're in the mail coming to us, but they
Okay.
will need to be sent.
I checked this morning, and it said they're still in print. They've said, the publisher says things are going slower. For example, they didn't have a rush printing option. Everybody automatically got the slow printing option. The good news is this particular printing house I use it for a variety of reasons. One is they have this publishing branch, but they are the largest book distributor in the world, and they have links to print-on-demand publishing and distribution on every continent, with the probable exception of Antarctica, but I wouldn't bet on that one anymore. They might be there already. So it's being printed at their printing house in Fresno, California. Some of the things I've had printed came from the one in Tennessee or the one in New York, but this one's coming from Fresno. So when they ship it, it's, I think, UPS, and it'll probably be like 1 day from Fresno. Everything else they've sent from Fresno to here has been 1 day. So I'll check again in the morning, and hopefully they'll be sent, and I expect to have them in my hands this week. And as soon as I get them in my hands, I will turn around and autograph them and have a big to-do with picture taking, and I'll turn around and then start sending them out to all of you. Unless anybody wants them by a particular deadline that may come up this week and wants to drive up to Mount Shasta and get their copy. So the instant I have a change, I'll let you all know. But they said 7 days. I don't know if that's calendar days or business days. So it's been 1 week. I ordered them a week ago today. So I'm expecting them very, very soon.
Also, I put on here to tell your friends about the energy classes and email us if you're interested. They will be posted on Facebook, and there will be an email distribution. But for those classes that are coming up in the next week or two, this is kind of your potentially first and last warning.
Yeah. Luke, I am not your father. You may want to tune in on some of these Zoom classes, because when we you'll get more training than we did when we did your transmissions and attunements by participating in these classes. So it just took the end of the world for us to finally get this stuff online.
Right.
So. Any other comments or questions?
No.
Okay. I think that's it for today then. Everybody do good and avoid evil. And we will go offline. But make sure we capture the chat. See, I remembered this time.
Oh, okay. Chat on what?
On YouTube. Isn't that the one you told me that we needed to capture each time?